Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Out of Context podcast for April 18th in the year of something 2023. I am your host, Walker AC, and to you, my friends, yes, you are my friends, I'm Adrian. In this week's episode, we're going to talk about plenty of fun little topics that will amuse the kiddos, enlighten grandma, and have everyone sitting by the fireplace having a good old time. But before we get started, I don't have a fun fact because let's go with a warning. The views and opinions of myself and Ashley Majestic does not necessarily reflect the views of the Walker AC Experience, the Out of Context podcast, Slacking Majestically, the root of all Ashley, and everything in between. So children, pack it up, don't get offended, leave your hate mail at the door because this one is going to be a doozy. Now, for those of you who cannot see us on video because this is the podcast, my associate is having a nice little drinky poo, and without further ado, the woman that puts the sizzle in alcohol, because there is no sizzle in the word alcohol, Ashley Majestic. How are you, dear Ashley?
Hello. Okay, so I have just two things to point out. First of all, do you ever have an intro where you're going to change up the words? I feel like you say the same thing every time. I've just now started picking up on that. Secondly, when you're talking about like today's episode, it does not reflect on the views and opinions. Yes, it does. Yes, it does, because we are the Walker AC Experience Out of Context, the root of all Ashley, Slacking Majestically. We are all those. And well, you're mostly Walker AC. I don't really partake in the Walker AC Experience besides the shows I happen to partake in. And so these are all our opinions. Like, if we're reading something, that's like the opinion, but like if there are feedback, that's definitely our opinions. If you are the type of person that can be easily offended, why are you here? Why are you still here? Don't, stop. Do not pass go. That's it. Walk away. Hit exit on the app. You can like and subscribe, but just don't listen. Just don't listen.
Well, you know, this generation has to have something to complain about. I mean, you have your Karens, you have your Kevins. They all have to listen, watch TV, watch movies, read something to get offended about something. No one nowadays can just accept something for the way it is. So this is why I put a little disclaimer in it, because number one, I'm tired. And number two, we're going to have a little bit of fun today and hopefully not offend too many people, but, you know, this is how we roll. We offend everybody. So before we get started, tell the audience what you're sipping on tonight.
I am sipping on an alcoholic beverage. And this alcoholic beverage, it's just really very simple. It is huckleberry vodka and lemonade with a slice of lemon in it. It's very simple. I didn't want to get all fancy and make a lemon drop martini or anything. It's just lemonade and huckleberry vodka. The brand is called 44 North. It is amazing. And yeah, I did a little bit of a heavy hand tonight, and I am feeling it, and I love it.
Oh, so this can be entertaining. Now, excuse me, folks, my voice is kind of scratchy this evening, so it's a little bit lower of an octave, so just bear with me. Now,
Chocolate.
Go ahead and say it.
Chocolate Thunder.
Yes, whatever that means, so we're not going to touch on it, folks.
Chocolate Thunder.
See, I keep on thinking about the chocolate rain thing, but anyhow, I digress. So,
chocolate. That's a throwback.
Yes, we're going to find that one. So, a little fun fact here. We're going to talk about kinks. Now, not kinks, in your car or, kinks the band for you millennials out there. We're going to talk about actual kinks. Now, just a little small definition. In human sexuality, kinkiness is the use of non-conventional sexual practices, concepts, or fantasies. The term derives from the idea of a bend in one's sexual behavior. To contrast such behavior with a straight or vanilla sexual mores and proclivities. Now, mother, family, I apologize. So we're going to dip into this a little bit here. Now, there is, once again, so many kinks out there. And the reason why I'm bringing this up, and the reason why Ashley was so giddy to talk about this when I even brought up the idea to her, she's smiling big, people, too bad you cannot see this, is because it's a certain subsection of society that it was many, many years ago. Previous generations I don't want to say straight laced, but they were very private in their proclivities, in their sexual, in this whole sexual world, and kinks and whatnot. It was very, very taboo to talk about stuff of that nature. Yes, I saw that. And now, before I break into continuity here, I have this weird feeling that Ashley will be sending me little memes here and there on our Discord. So you hear a little noise, that's her sending something. Back to what I was saying. So, with that, nowadays everything is kink shaming, body positivity, all these terms that have come to light for society, and us older generations really don't understand it. But it's not for us. It's for the new generation, talking about kinks and fetishes and whatnot. Now we're not gonna get too graphic. We'll keep everything professional, and of course Ashley will laugh and giggity here and there. But before we get started, so let me just throw it back to you. Now, of course, I'm not going to ask you what your kinks are because that's none of my business. But what are your thoughts on, kinks nowadays, that it's more open now and people talk about it more, and you see it in social media, you see it on TV and movies everywhere, 50 Shades of Grey, stuff like that?
I think it's awesome. Do I think it shouldn't be exposed to the younger audience, like under 18? I mean, sure. Well, I guess nowadays, like under 16, because 16, like nowadays, most kids are probably starting at around that, if not younger. But I think it's good because there's probably some people that grow up, like you can have fetishes and kinks that start developing when you're a child and you don't really know. You don't even know what's happening. You don't even know that that's a thing for you. And as you get older, there's gonna be a part of you that's like, oh, is this messed up? Is this weird? And maybe not fully understanding it, and then you don't even know how to talk to a partner about it. To where now it's kind of more open, where people talk about their communities online, social media, all that. Where not only can you learn about them, you can always talk to therapists about them too. But it helps also ways to present it to partners. Like, can we try this? I'm always down. Everything is consent. Like, long as all parties involved are down for it, that's great. And so, I mean, again, it's good, and there's no privacy here. I think if we're going to talk about this, we're going to at least admit we have a kink. I have multiple, but it's fine. Well, not really multiple actually, but we'll get to that. But we will talk about at least one that we have.
Okay, I will I will acquiesce, and I'll delve into it a little bit. Now, before we get into our own personal, why do you think it was so frowned upon back then, and why do you think it's so open now? Now in 2023 with everything else going on, why do you think it's socially acceptable now to even talk about it, as we are now? Because once again, back then it was very taboo, very secretive, very, very frowned upon. Oh my God, you're a sexual deviant. If you like spanking or paddling or whatever it is that you're into, because that was always kept behind closed doors. Because once again, generations previous was always of the what goes on in my bedroom is none of your business. Nowadays, it's out there, it's out in the open, and people charge to see it. There's places for it, everything under the sun.
So for the most part, I wouldn't say it's fully out in the open. Well, because of the internet, it kind of is. But there's still some taboo for people with older generations. They're still like, oh God, is that an ankle I see? And for me, I feel like the difference is just as people are getting older, the generations are passing, technology, the internet, there's more things that are just out there now. Where, you look back 100 years ago, God forbid if a woman showed her elbows or ankles or something like that. It had to be fully covered. If it was a man and woman in the same room, they were not allowed to touch hands, do none of that. God forbid you even you couldn't even touch hands with someone and you're expected to marry them. So I just feel like it's just progress. It's just development where it's good to have these things out in the open. Again, I feel like there should be disclaimers and things for younger audiences because I do believe that someone can be too young to fully comprehend what they're listening to and what they're watching. So I always feel like there's disclaimers. But again, I feel like it also comes down to the parents to make sure you're monitoring your child and what they're reading, listening, and watching. But, uh, again, I like that things are a little bit more open. I feel like it's more of a chance to learn from it, to learn different things. Maybe something you didn't even know you were into until you learned about it. It's like, oh, shit, I like that. And again, there's communities that are part of it, people that you can talk about it to. Maybe you can find partners that are into it, or there's something one way or the other. There's very many options to explore. And if you just want to be a prude and you hate it, that's just on you. And maybe you're a vanilla person. There's plenty of people out there that don't have any kinks and fetishes. They just want to have sex, and that's it. Maybe they just want to do the one position, which is missionary. Maybe spice it up once in a while and do doggy style. And that's also no shaming on that too. I mean, plenty of episodes going far back as it can be that I do not kink shame anybody. Whatever is your business, whatever you like, what you're into, as long as you're not harming a person without their consent, it's not a child or an animal. I don't care what you're into then at that point. It's your thing. You can be into a whole bunch of stuff. You can be into nothing. That's fine. Everyone has their own boat.
Yes, always make the joke, like I mentioned before in previous episodes, do what you want to with your sheep, leave me and my sheep alone. So my question to you, before we delve heavily into it, and we'll talk about the history of it a little bit before we, get rated R and scare off most of our audience, I think it's more or less like an evolution. Because if you think about it, you go to, like I mentioned before, previous generations, you had Woodstock and the whole sexual revolution with that. And that scared most of that generation because they'd never seen something of the sort, like free love and hippie-ish and things of that nature. So now it evolved again and again and again, to where now, once again, the door is wide open and you see new things pop up all the time and it's much more acceptable. So I think that it's a topic that isn't scary boogeyman to talk about anymore.
Yeah, I was actually, while you're talking about that, when you're talking about the history, and I think it's not just history, I think it's cultures as well. Because the one main thing that most people should know about, or I've heard it, is the Kama Sutra. And the Kama Sutra is, if I'm not, explaining it right, sue me, but it's basically a lot of different positions sexually. And some of these positions have meaning, some of them, there's some sort of extra benefit to it, and all these, there's just a fuck ton of sexual positions to have with you and a partner. And it was written, and I cannot pronounce it, it's ancient Sanskrit in India, dated to 400 BCE to 200 CE, so around that time, which is a very long time ago. So there's some cultures that have always been open very sexually. I mean, you think about Greek, like ancient Greece, like everyone was all was all for the orgies, multiple partners of the same sex. And then you have, the cultures that, again, you can't even look at somebody else. You can't be in the same room. You can't be next to them. And you certainly cannot touch at all, or else you're considered like a slut or a sinner. And there are cultures and there are parts of the world or religions that are still like that to this day. And, to me, honestly, in my opinion, that sucks. But people that are in that part and they grew up with it, to them, it's like, oh, it's the holiest of honors. I'm respecting myself, so I'm not shaming them. But I don't want someone to come at me and like, oh, I had sex before marriage. I'm a slut. Hey. Okay.
And it all goes back to the stigma, going back even further, the stigma of sex. Because particular generations, were very protective of that. Sex was a dirty word, especially before marriage. And then you fast forward to, okay, we accept that everybody having sex, of course. Then we fast forward to more. Protect yourself from having sex. Fast forward more. Okay, you have multiple partners now. Could be same sex. Okay, it's accepted now. And then we go even further to the kinky side of it. Of course, it's been done for many, many years. Everybody's been doing it for so many years. once again, now it's up to the forefront. And now that's just another step in the sexual evolution that this generation has right now. And so now it's part of it. And now new phrases like kink shaming, stuff of that nature. So now that there's so many different kinks out there, obviously we don't have enough time in this episode to even touch all of them, no pun intended. And looking at particular websites, like say for example, like glamour.com, talks about like the A to Z kinks. And you look at some of these, and I think we've gone past as adults, to the ill, that's gross kind of thing. I think we passed that. I think we've gotten into the, okay, well, if that's something that you prefer, that's whatever you prefer. It may gross me out, but not necessarily, it may not gross you out. If that's something that makes you happy, by all means, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, I can still have the opinion, like, ooh, that is nasty. But, again, it's like, hey, that's what you're into. I mean, that's your life. That's not mine. I mean, and kind of before as well, because not the glamour.com, I was going to look at that, the A through Z, but I saw the mindbodygreen.com where it has a list of kinks. It's probably underneath the link that you probably searched on Google, because we probably looked at the same thing. But for me, I mean, if it's pretty obvious for people that have listened to me, Adrian, you've known me for so long, I'm very open with what I will talk about, especially sexually active things, inappropriate things. And it's more than just me wanting to be funny and having the shock factor on people. It's just these things very much don't matter to me. I think it came in from my parents. Like, they meant to be joking and being assholes to their kids, but they would kind of announce, like, yeah, turn up the volume because we're about to get it done. And that probably attributed. But to me, it's just, we're all human beings for the most part. Everyone knows what sex is. They know what goes where for the most part. We all know what our body parts look like. And to me, it's like, whether you're gay, straight, or whatever you identify as, you've probably seen some pictures, some videos, some person, and you see what their body parts look like. Unless I grow a third tit. Like, I mean, I'm pretty sure everything that I have is something you've seen at some point in your life. To where I don't even feel like body shame. Like, am I a little overweight? And that part, yes. But as in my actual body, I could care less if I'm changing in front of somebody. Like, it's a girl, it's a female, it's one of my guy friends, anything. It does nothing for me. I will undress in front of anyone because it's like, what, you've seen this all before. I have a friend that will game together, and they're like, oh, I'm getting really hot, but all I have is like my sports bra on underneath this. I'm like, then just wear your sports bra off. Like, what is that going to do? Oh, well, I've just never done that before. If you don't want to, I'm not going to make you feel uncomfortable, but for one, I'm not sexually attracted to you. Secondly, think of it like wearing a swimsuit. Thirdly, like, what do you have that I don't have? What are you hiding? So I invite people, like, if you want, that's how you want to be. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh my God, you're doing that. Oh my God. I don't care. That's why I'm so open about my thoughts and opinions and my preferences and my jokes. Is, to me, it's just, this is really all just common human things. And a lot of people are afraid to talk about or even look into it. And that's where my role is that, okay, I'm going to shove it out there. And I'll put it into a comedic way and sometimes an asshole way, maybe both. But I'm putting it out there because why not?
Yeah, and this is one of the shows. This is why I put in a disclaimer, even though I really shouldn't have to, because once again, we're all adults here, folks. And it's more educational than anything else. And of course, we being who we are and how we react, we're definitely going to have fun with it. We're definitely going to giggle at it and stuff of that nature. So I'm going to put a temporary moratorium on the word shame. Because in this episode here, we're going to talk about everything under the sun. And of course, it's not our intention is to shame whenever anybody does. It is what it is. And we're going to have fun and read it while Ashley drinks and drinks and drinks. So hopefully, she doesn't stammer too much in her enunciation of words and phrases as we go along here. So. Oh,
calm down. It's not that much I'm drinking. It's only my second glass. It's my only glass because my mixer is empty. And so I was have to pour me 2 glasses. And I'm drinking water in between. So I'm good. Vibing.
So what I'm going to do is I'll list off a few, and then we'll talk about it. Then you list off a few, we'll talk about it, and go back and forth and here and there. And of course, we'll always go off on different tangents and whatnot as the show goes on. But the purpose of the show is to have fun with it. And maybe you have a little bit of educational purposes here and there. So we shall get started. Are you ready?
Oh, yes. This is what I was born for.
This is what she was meant for. So let's see here. Now I'm going to bounce around a little bit. I'm not going to go through A through Z, but let's see what we have here. So this one kind of caught my attention. And not necessarily in a sexual manner, but more of a kind of thing. So we're going to go for abrasion. Now we all know what abrasion is, of course. I'm not going to insult your intelligence. But it's a BDSM subcategory. Now, this involves becoming sexually aroused from harsh or scratchy surfaces, such as sandpaper or steel wool. Now, I don't know about you, but friction is a beautiful thing when done right. But steel wool and abrasions, and it's not really my thing. No, I'm going to pass it on to you, Ashley, because I see the look on your face right now. And
No. For the most part, I'm kind of a texture person. Just really in touch alone. So the idea of being turned on for sandpaper, steel wool, anything that's like a scratchy surface, it's not for me. I'm not gonna touch that and be like, oh, yes, I need to go hop on my husband now. Yeah, I mean, if someone's into it, actually, I didn't even know that was a kink. Because I'm looking at the same site you're looking at, and I can go back and forth to the other one I was looking at. But yeah, for abrasion, it doesn't surprise me, honestly, how far we can go on this list. Nothing's gonna really, I guess it'll throw me off, like, oh, I didn't expect that to be kink, to, okay, it doesn't surprise me. So yeah, it's in the BDSM subcategory, which makes sense. Usually things are like kind of harsher, can cause injury to certain points, like that. I can see that being in the BDSM categories.
It's kind of interesting. I mean, of course, obviously, BDSM is a thing, and it's quite popular, among the sexual things. And once again, these things I'm listing off here, I'm going to chuckle at, and we'll poke at it a little bit. But of course, we all do it with like good fun intentions. Of course. So I'll give two more and I'll hand it over to you because some of these are pretty interesting, actually. Another one is electrostimulation, and you don't have to live under a rock to know what that is. But for those of the uninitiated, electrostimulation involves using a power of electricity, getting electric shock, for kinky and sexual fun. And it's interesting because when it comes to human orgasm, it's kind of similar to having a shock through your body, an elation through your body. So it's all part of course, once again, the BDSM community. And I'm not going to insult your intelligence, but of course, certain parts of your body will get small electroshocks that just, yes, Paulo the dog, I heard that too. And that will, that definitely arouses people with that. Electrostimulation, that's something, not really my cup of tea, but once again, if it works for you, it works for you.
Exactly. This is my turn.
I'll do one more. It's cute to see your reactions as I read them because I go for you for a response. And for those of you, once again, we don't have video. So I just look at her head. She just nods and goes, okay. Great for podcasting, folks.
Well, because as I'm listening to you, I'm also reading from what the site I've been on. And there's some I want to talk about. There's some that it's mostly me like, okay. And there's some like, okay, I relate to that.
Okay.
Excuse me.
And of course, I'll give one more here now. We're going to chuckle here. Now, bear with me, people. I apologize in advance. My throat is kind of scratchy, so through the power of editing, which we don't do here, I'm going to cough a little bit here and there, so I apologize in advance. Excuse me. Now, here's one. And I'm going to butcher this word, but I'll spell it out first. So those of you who want to write it down or type it in as you're listening to this on your phone or laptop, it is spelled Klismafia. Klismafia. And I'm butchered that word. So anyhow, what it means, it's a Greek word that means arousal by enemas. Now, with that one, once again, a certain cavity of the human body, people get aroused by getting enemas. That works for them in their sexual pleasure. And the anus is an erogenous zone, after all, which helps explain why kinky folks have been using enemas for pleasures forever. But this kink can also be quite practical. It's a way to clean and prep the rectum for anal sex. Interesting indeed. And I'm once again looking at my other screen here and Ashley just nodding her head in approval as we go along here. So that's something here. I'm sorry, what was that?
Listen, I am studying right now. I am studying.
Okay, so once again, I will lob the ball at you, and I'll have you list off a few, because I see a look on your face that you've seen a few that kind of sparked your curiosity. What you got?
Well, one, I mean, there's some, I guess, again, I know that they're kinks, but I'm reading more into them. So one, I mean, if anyone knows who R. Kelly is, they're not, they're not strangers to this one, which is urophilia, which is known as golden showers, water sports, releasing the valve onto a partner. And I actually know some people that are into this. There's some friends of mine that are also very open with what they're into and what they're not into. And I remember, like, there's times that we've gone down a list, like, are you into this or into this? And we'll talk about it. And again, no shaming. And for me, again, it doesn't vibe with me. If I'm ever in the one of the people that I've talked to about this, they will only do it if they're in the shower because they can immediately be cleaned off. Usually it could be the partner that's into it, and it's sometimes, again, this is from what I'm hearing, and this is probably just from the one person's perspective, but it's kind of like a domination thing. You know how dogs piss somewhere, and it's like, I'm the alpha, this is my territory. It's kind of like that. People are into that, and the person that doesn't mind it happening too, they're usually like the sub. They don't mind it. Sometimes it can be vice versa. Doesn't vibe with me. If I'm ever in the shower, my husband decides to do that, where hands will be thrown. That's just not something I'm into. But what do you think about that one? Like, is it what kink that that you know of? Anything that rings any bells for you? Anything that's like, ugh, no, or hell yeah, Ashley, I'm totally into that.
Now, oddly enough, an old friend of mine from many years ago, she let me know that she was into that. And at first, she referred to it as water sports, and I really didn't get the connection. And then, of course, she went into great detail about what that was. And of course, you have questions. So my question mainly was, I'm like, what kind of arousal do you get out of that? And like most obscure sexual pleasures, most people really don't have an answer. They say because it's a feeling. And so she explained to me, it's the feeling that she got from that. Not thinking about human waste, not thinking about the act of just excreting human waste or anything of the traditional sense. That's something that she preferred, and just any particular way, whether it be, not in the shower, whether it be just anywhere that she wanted the pleasure from that. And of course, you're correct. It's really not something I'm too fond of because I see it as a traditional way of excreting waste. So that's something that's not really my cup of tea on that one.
Yeah. Did he find a squeaky toy?
Yes, he stepped on his rubber duck.
Oh my god.
Moving on.
That's the hippo. That's the hippo. So another one that's very common, because we're going to talk about like ones we never heard of and ones that is very common. The next one is bondage. There's different types of bondage. There is ropes, there's cuffs, there's being completely strapped down, there's just like your wrist, your feet. Like there's multiple ways bondage can happen. So for me, I'm not particularly, I wouldn't say I'm even fond. I mean, there's no yay or nay. I mean, I've done bondage before. I don't know, like for me, it's like, okay, it's great. It's hot, all that stuff. But for me, what I like is like in the partner, if I don't even want to say tied up, it's just like they can't move for the moment. Like they can't use their hands because it's like when you're in the middle of doing an act or doing something. And for me, I love the reactions I can make out of my partner, thus my husband. I, I love those reactions. And the fact is that he wants to do something, he wants to touch, he wants to do something, and he cannot in the moment. I personally love that. So everyone has different reasons as to why. Like it's a domination thing. Most of the time it is a domination thing. People like that they're controlled, that they can't move, they can't do anything. There's different views, but that's just personally mine. Do I want my husband like that? No, it's like a once in a blue moon thing. And again, I won't even call it bondage. It's like mostly me telling him, no touch, no touch, or I leave. I get up and I leave. You don't want that. You don't want that. It's a cold night. You don't want that.
It's more or less like a power play, sexual
Yeah.
wise, and it's the whole classic term, dominatrix, or you're dominating your partner, and of course, this one thing I'm not really into. I almost tried it, but it wasn't really my thing. I'm much more of a dominant person. Not too big on the whole, BDSM thing just yet. I have particular things which we'll get to later. Do you have one more for me? Because I definitely found one. That don't make you chuckle a little bit.
Let's see. Well, we kind of covered dominance. I mean, for like you said, you were going to get into a little bit. So I guess when you want to touch base, I can touch base on that too. Hold on. I saw one. Um, okay, like there's the foot fetishism. Definitely not for me. I'm one of those type of people that feet kind of weird me out. I don't have a phobia against feet. It's just I don't know, feet. I just feel weird. Do I want to touch someone's foot? Do I want them to touch my feet? Not necessarily. Someone's offering me a foot massage, that's fine, but any particular chance that it could be a sexual thing, nope. I am a mile away from it, and I know foot fetishism is a very popular thing. That's actually kind of more the common kinks, or at least from what I witnessed. There was a guy, I remember when I was probably about 17 or 18, I was talking to. He was cute, really digged him, and then he's like, oh, send me pictures of your feet. I'm like, I'm sorry? And granted, I'm a teenager, I'm aware of this type of world, but I was like, I didn't expect someone to be asking me. And he was asking me for it, and I felt very weirded out at first. And I did it, and I was like, oh, I don't understand why he wants it. And it dawned on me, eventually that's like, oh, that's what he's into. And I had to explain to him that I'm just not into that. It kind of weirds me out. I mean, I was younger, so I didn't really explain it that well, but it's just like, ew, no, I'm not doing that. And there's, again, nothing wrong if you're into it, but for me, it's just, no, if my husband one day says, I just want to suck on your toes, I'm like, I want you to get it the hell out of my house. Because no, just no. I'm all about respecting your partner's stuff. Like, I will buy you a fake foot if that's what's going to happen for you, but it's not happening to my feet. No. I don't want to be near your feet. I don't want my mouth near your feet. I don't want your mouth near mine. And agreed.
Yeah, this is one of these I'm going to have to agree on you. Agree with you, because I find the feet as one of the most disgusting parts of the body, the human body. Because once again, I mean, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that you walk on your feet all the time. You step on the ground, you step on your floor. There's so much bacteria and things that are out there, and not because I'm a germaphobe. It's just because, once again, the feet is the dirtiest part of the body. And if you hear weird noise in the background, that's Doggo drinking his drink at the moment. But funny story to piggyback on what a gentleman wanted from you. I'll make this quick. I dated a young lady in my early 20s. And little did I know she had a thing for feet. I was sitting in my apartment with my roommates. She came over with her friend, and we're all sitting on the floor watching TV, and her friend keeps looking at her, saying, go, do it. Just do it. Just do it. Looking at me. And mind you, my friend and my brother are in the room, and they're like, should we leave the room? She's like, no, just do it. So finally, my girlfriend at the time sits on my legs, pulls off my sock, and deep throats my toe, my big toe. Now, for those of you, once again, I wish we had video. Yes, the look on Ashley's face explained it all, because my face crinkled. It crinkled, I felt gross, I felt violated, and yes, she proceeded to fillet my toe, my big toe. It was the grossest feeling in the world. I cannot explain how just violated I felt. I felt like I was in prison. It was these weird sensations, and yes. After sitting on me for about a minute, which felt like 10, she asked me, she goes, "What do you think?" I'm like, "I think that's the grossest thing you have ever done in our very short tenure of dating, and please don't ever do that again." Needless to say, the relationship didn't last very long, but I remember that like it was yesterday, and this was when I was like 22, 23 years old. It was grotesque, and I don't understand the feet thing. I really don't understand it. It's just really not something for me.
So my understanding, like it really will weird you out, but you let it happen for a minute.
She sat on my legs while she was...
Then you knee her in the crotch. What else are you supposed to do? I don't know. I don't know. Like, again, as someone just, like, I'm just chilling, my legs are just propped out, and someone came in, just want to sit on my legs, and they just are, like, dude, the physical harm is going to be becoming, because 1, consent. 2, what the fuck are you doing? 3, I don't like this feeling. I don't like even stepping in something that's wet. I hate that. Like, you know, if you're just walking around the house and, like, maybe there was an ice cube that melted, anything that's just wet, and the fact that your feet are touching it, and like, if you're expecting something to be wet, like you're walking in on a pool, you're going to be walking through puddles or something, you know you're expecting it, and so you're kind of bracing yourself, and for the most part, this is fun. This is fine. Not fun, but this is fine. But when you're just walking around your house, and you're just, you know, la-da-da-da-da, just going to go to the kitchen, get me a drink, get me a little snacky snack, go back and watch my Netflix, and you just step on something that's wet, it just throws off your mood. Like, immediately your foot, it's like, your toes are like, nope, we need to be dry right now.
Yeah, so that's one of those experiences. Never, ever, ever. I don't touch feet, look at it, anything of the sort. Yes, so PTSD, folks, therapy, very therapy. So I found one here, and once again, I'm not even going to pretend to know what the word is nor pronounce it. I'll spell it out for those of you who wish to write it down or type it into your Google machine. It is MELOL, figure, AGNIA, melolagnia. Now, that's a fetish. It involves being turned on by music. Now, it doesn't have to be Spotify-ish or anything of the sort. The arousal can derive from a combination of musical elements, you know, like somebody's voice, the beat, the repetition, stuff like that, which can lead to physical sensations like goosebumps, faster heartbeat, or, of course, you know, natural sexual lubrication. I think that we can tie that to, like, say, for example, phone sex. You know, many, many years ago, you know, you call on the phone, a woman will speak to you in sexual undertones just as a man would as well. It could be the pattern of someone's voice. Doesn't necessarily have to be a deep voice, but a soothing voice. You know, to where you can close your eyes and listen to someone speak, and that is a turn on all in itself. And so, what are your thoughts about that one?
First of all, if you ever decide to quit your job, that's the job for you right there. Talking to people on the phone. Tickle their fancies. You have the voice for it. You like to say that you have the face for radio and whatnot, but you have the voice for that job, certainly. I guess I can get that. I wouldn't say I've ever really been turned on by a song, but there can be songs I listen to that can be very graphic and it will make me think of things, or I don't know, reminders to a moment I've had, things like that, but I don't really know if I ever listened to a song that's actually turned me on. I don't know, I think like some of them will spark memories, and it can happen that way. I don't know if someone listens to a specific beat or a specific voice or an artist, and they're like, yep, that's the stuff right there. So, I think I understand it, but I don't think I necessarily think of it as a kink for myself. It's just, Yeah, I go on my daydreams, and this song triggers one of those daydreams. Is like, yep, I can see this happening between me and Henry Cavill.
I don't know who that is, but okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, Henry Cavill is The Witcher. He played Superman in the most recent Superman movies.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, okay.
I'm okay. Moving on.
Well, yes, I do have one more, and then I'll toss it back to you. Funny little anecdote. Excuse me. Speaking of voice and tenure and texture and stuff, not texture, but the sound waves of the voice and how that works. I was at work in our previous job, let's just say, and my associate and myself, we were talking about movie stars and about who we like. And of course, once again, we don't have video, so you can't see Ashley's eyes light up as she found the topic, which she shall get to here in a few seconds. And we were talking about movie stars, that works for us. Of course, mine was Christina Hendricks and Anna Nicole Smith, stuff like that, typical male stuff. And she's my associate, and she's like, I like Matthew McConaughey. And most people like Matthew McConaughey because just the way he is. So I walked up behind her, just in passing, going to my register. And I'm like, okay, so it's like Matthew McConaughey. All right. And her face turned bright red because that voice turned her on immensely about Matthew McConaughey. So I found that kind of funny to piggyback on that because once again, it's all about sound waves and voices and tones and stuff like that turns people on. So next one, and I'll hand it over to you because I see you're giddy. Going to talk about this one.
Oh my God, it's amazing.
Well, this one is a simple one, and I'll hand I'll lob the ball back at you. Nylon. There is a nylon kink, as in tights, and this goes along with the whole foot fetish thing. It's once again, it's more or less like a visual thing, and also it's physical to where people like to be tied, their hands and their wrists and ankles by nylons. So they like the smell of the nylon, the texture, stuff like that. And it's used as a blindfold also, your basic sensory deprivation kind of thing. And when bondage is part of the kink, most people use nylons. So I never tried nylons before. I never seen people do it, but of course you see that in the movies. So that's more popular in that aspect. So what are your thoughts on that one?
So nylons, I really don't see many people wearing nylons nowadays. I guess it is more common, but I'm not used to seeing people wearing nylons anymore. I remember how soft and smooth it feels. I remember my mom, as a kid, I think it's like her job. I don't remember why she was wearing nylons, but she would wear nylons. And when she put them on, as a kid, I would just feel her leg, like her lower leg, obviously. But I'm a kid, I'm just sitting on the floor, and I'm just like brushing my hand up and down, like on like the front of her leg, and I'm like, because it's so soft and smooth, and I liked that. So I can see when someone's like, I am totally into this right now. But yeah, it's very soft and smooth. But when you're talking about nylons, I'm thinking like tights or the thigh-high stockings, because there are some people out there, like when they're like, especially thick girls, and they're wearing the thigh-high stockings. It's just like, I'm not into women, but I recognize. Game recognizes game. Okay, I'm not game. I'm just saying that I will recognize when a woman is hot. I'm like, holy shit, that is very attractive. Does it lubricate me? No, it's not. But I'm like, that is a hot person. Like if I know a friend that's single, I'm like, yo, hit this person up because she's hot. She hot.
Now let's talk about what you've seen. What like made your eyes light up? I'll stand back and let you talk about that one.
So, okay, I did. So obviously there's the kink that is not a good one. I would like to think that we can shame this one, which is necrophilia, which is you're turned on by dead bodies, that you want to touch and all that with dead bodies. That's one of those things. It's like, hey, wait, let's not do that. That's gross. So it pulled me back to a podcast I used to listen to, and it's a podcast that's been inactive for years, for like at least the last 3 to 4 years now, and I miss it. But it was a really crass type of podcast. And one of the things they talked about is they were reading an article about this woman. She worked in the morgue, and she got pregnant by a dead guy. Because when you're dead, there's still that stuff that's alive in you, and you were, for the most part, you were pretty stiff. Rigor mortis really does its job. And she did that, and she got pregnant. And I don't remember how it ended out, but I think they never found out, like, okay, does she get to keep the kid? Does the family keep the kid? Like, how does this happen? Like, how are you going to explain this to the child? So I wanted to find the article. I wanted to find something maybe I could figure out. Maybe I could find out what happened. So I never thought to Google it or look into it. I go on Google and I type in woman has sex with corpse, gets pregnant. Think I want to find an article about it. And Google's like, no. There's zero histories. It shows me like 450,000 search results, but nothing's showing for me. Even Google's like, Ashley, you have gone too far. And that's what you saw my face lighting up. I'm like, holy shit, Google's actually preventing me from looking at something.
You have gone too far.
And then I type in woman has sex with corpse because I want to see, like, I want to find this article. And it doesn't block me, but it just shows up as nothing again. I'm like, bro, Google is really thinking, like, Ashley, you have gone too far. I feel like my FBI or CIA agent is like, Ashley, we need to have a conversation. I wonder if my Google searches has pinged anybody that's going to come and knock on my front door tonight or tomorrow, and my husband has to answer it, and they're going to have, like, do you know what your wife is Googling? And I have to explain to my husband, like, it was for a podcast.
Like, it was for the show. Sure it was, Ashley.
I wanted to know the result of that because I heard about it, and I want to know whatever happened to this lady. I'm assuming she did jail time, but I want to know what happened between her and the kid. What was the turnout for it? So that's what I was really looking for. Was that article. But again, necrophilia, not a good idea. Let's not do that. That's horrible. And it goes back to, think of many attractive women throughout history that have been touched after death, like their bodies go missing for so many hours and they come back. In ancient Egypt, women who were found attractive were kept for like a few days longer intentionally to rot, so that way when they would go to the morticians or however their names were back in those times, they wouldn't feel tempted to do something with them. And this has been going on for literally thousands of years. Not to say that hasn't happened to male bodies either, but I'm just saying that's horrible. I will put necrophilia in the same boat personally as if you're into children or into animals. It doesn't click with me. I will shame that one all day.
No, I definitely join you on that one because necrophilia surprisingly goes on for many, many years, many generations, because once again, you have, whether it be somebody's kink or whether, someone is socially awkward or a sociopath, and they get no resistance from the corpse that they bring in. So I've read multiple stories upon that, to where you're right, a celebrity would come in, a deceased celebrity, and they would have pictures or they'll be fondled or whatnot, and it is gross. It's grotesque. And if you cannot get someone while they're alive, then you go for them dead, which is really, really weird on top of that. So that's something I really can't fathom. I'll have you do one more, and then I'll touch upon one as well. No pun intended.
Well, here's another popular one, tentacles. Everyone knows or makes the joke of tentacle porn, hentai, all that stuff. When you see a bunch of like wiggly things, you immediately think, hentai. It's not a kink of mine. I know people that are into that. And I guess because that's the idea, that's multiple things entering your body, and it also acts as a bonding agent as well as a penetrative thing. It creates its own lube. There's multiple layers that go into this. And, there's actually toys that can mimic the feeling and the way that they are and stuff, which I found at stores before, and I was like, wow. And so I can see why some people are into it, but for me, I don't know. I don't feel, it's just, I guess it doesn't click with me, which is fine. Just doesn't click with me. But I always found that kind of interesting. Because it delves on more layers of what you're into than just it's a tentacle. There's multiple reasons why you're into that thing, for the most part, from what I've had friends explain to me. And like, do you know anyone from personal experience? Is that your own personal kink? Have you seen a squid in the zoo and you're like, I date that one?
Yeah, that's something I really can't even touch because there are some animes out there that deal with that, and I've actually seen some of those. Not really my cup of tea, but once again, to each his own. Now, here's something that's really, really popular. I'm reading an article on it. It is a kink for pregnant women. So,
Yep.
yes, and it's common. It's very, very common. It's pregnancy fetishism. Besides the fact that orgasm, having sex near a due date, may help induce labor, of course, there are outright pregnancy fetishes, sexual attractions to a pregnant person. Now, it's the visual part, attraction to an object of the body part. People like the sight of a swollen round belly, lactation, or just the overall presentation of a pregnant female body. And what's really odd about that is, like I said, it's really common. It's really popular. Of course, couples who become pregnant, it enhances their, sexuality, their just everything in between. So it could be considered a kink, but once again, we really don't know. But it's really popular. It's very popular. What do you think?
I think it ties in with it's like pregnancy kink, or breeding kink. Because pregnancy kink is when the person's already pregnant, but breeding kink, there's people I know that are into that too. And I've read I read my smut, and there's some smut that does that. It's not a kink for me because I don't want to be pregnant. If my husband's like, yeah, I'm gonna put a baby in you, I'm like, get out. I get, again, this is just my assumption, but just from the things I've read to people explaining to me, it's like a very much of a domination thing. It not dominating like I'm in control and stuff. It's more of like that's all me. You're filled up with what is me. It's marking my territory. There's different layers. I guess it all depends on the user and the person that's doing it, why they're into it. Maybe it is the view. Usually it's like, I did this, so I feel like it's kind of like a possessive type of territorial kink, in my opinion. You're just so quiet, and your face is just like...
No, I was listening to everything you were saying, and I was looking at something else that's pretty common, but I'll let you finish.
Well, no, I mean, that's basically what I was saying, because I think it goes into the whole possessiveness type of deal that people are into. Just like making the other person be able to orgasm, or they get, however they're feeling, it's like, yeah, I did that. That's me. So again, it goes into that element from what I take from it.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's more or less like a power thing. So, yeah, we do understand that one. And I'll do one more because, what's really funny is right now we're at the 53-minute mark already of this. So I guess...
It's been a good conversation. It's actually been a mature conversation despite the topic. I feel like alcohol has matured me.
That's scary. That's very scary indeed. I mean, we may have to do a part 2 of this because I do have a couple more. So this will be my last one, and I'll hand it over to you. And once again, this is another common one that, well, I can't lay claim to that one, but underwear fetish and underwear kink. Men and women get arousal from underwear, from used underwear of their partner or from strangers or anything of the sort, because in Japan, for example, they have underwear machines, where you literally can go to a vending machine and get a pair of underwear that has allegedly been worn, in air quotes. We really don't know if that's the case or not, but once again, it's all about I hate to even say it, the aroma of the used underwear. That is a kink mainly for most men. Because once again, I mean, men are very physical, visual creatures. So we love the sight of a woman, body parts, anything of the sort, male, female, doesn't matter. So I guess the sight of the underwear and the aroma of it is a particular kink that's really, really popular. I cannot say that's not my thing because I'm a germaphobe. So use underwear, socks, anything, straight to the washer or in the trash can. So that's a particular one that's not really my forte.
I love how earlier in this episode you're like, oh, because we're on the feet thing, you're like, oh, it's not because I'm a germaphobe or anything, to now you're like, because I am a germaphobe. So you revealed something about yourself. You are a germaphobe. No shame in that, but I just feel like it's funny. I immediately caught on to that. It's like, something's not right here. Something doesn't look like the other to me. But again, the whole underwear thing, I mean, that's been a whole joke. I mean, if you think just about Quagmire from Family Guy, he's definitely into that. That dude's into everything. Yeah, the idea, it's the aroma, all that's like, no thanks. No thanks. Like, I like to think I'm a very clean person. Like, where I work out, where majority of us, we're all females, and we have not just the basic toiletries, but we have wipes, because there's more to clean than what a dude would have. And just the idea that someone's like, I want that. If it's for free, no, you're not having this. If you're going to offer me $100 for my used underwear, I'm sure. There are websites for that, and I want to figure out how and where to do that. Do I really just bundle up like a week's worth of undies and just ship it out and I get paid? Like, I'll do that. I'll do that. I'm not smelling the underwear. That person's doing it. That's the risk. That's the choice that they are making in their life. And if I have to profit off of that, I will make that sacrifice. Actually, the whole feet pics, all this stuff. Like, there's people out there that will sell literally their bath water in a jar, and people buy it. I'm like, dude, I need to be in this market because I'm not buying it. I want to sell it. Like, I will spit in a napkin, and someone's like, I want to buy that from you. I'm like, sold.
Now, which leads me to my next question, and we'll finish off on this one, no pun intended. How do you know that they're used women's underwear? A guy can put on a pair of your underwear and go for a long jog, take them off, and label it as, this is Ashley Majestic's underwear, and sell it for $100.
If it's Ashley Majestic's, we're going to go up further than $100. We're going to at least make it like $150. That's the lowest I will accept. Oh, who am I kidding? I'm a money whore. I will take $75. Hello.
Well, my
money
thing,
is money.
my thing is,
Go ahead.
my thing is, how do you know that a woman wore the underwear before they put it in a baggie and sold it?
You just don't know unless you literally watch them as like a cam girl, literally take it off, put it in the package that has your information put on it, and you see them seal it, and you have them write something specific on it, and then, that's the best way you could trust it. But still, it's like, okay, I can recreate the same exact thing. But yeah, you can't really know for sure. There could be people that just fuck with you. Like, I can go to the store, buy a pack of underwear, and just toss them outside for like a day, and then put them in a package. Be like, here you go. I wore this. Just for you. There's like some earthly tones to it.
Well, once again, I mean, it's all about the kink. It's all about, what people like. We may not agree with it. We may find it disgusting or whatever, but these are people's kinks, and they're not harming anyone or anything of the sort. So, as we put a capper on this bizarre episode, my question to you is, are we going to do a part 2 to this? And are we going to reveal our particular kinks on part 2?
We can, yes. Because I wanted us to reveal it now, but the time has gotten away from us. It is already 9:30 for us recording this, and I'm like, man, it's gotten late. So as much as I'm like, hey, hell no, we're going to talk about our kinks right now before we finish it off, I'm like, I need to go to bed in like 30 minutes. So yes, you'll do this in part 2.
So this will be a cliffhanger for all of you out there who are wondering, oh my God, I've never seen Ashley Majestic, I've never seen Walker AC, and what are their kinks? No, we're going to make you wait, folks. We're going to make you wait until next week as we continue to do a part 2 to this, and we bust out some more weird kinks that we may not agree with, but once again, it's a free country, and whatever you like is whatever you like. And then at the end of the show, we will reveal some, not all of ours, because we can't, let the cat out of the bag all the way.
Imagine if you and I completely forget, and we do our next show, and it's not Kinks Part 2, and people are like, what the fuck?
We're going to get a lot of hate mail. A lot of hate mail.
Oh, for sure. But we thrive in that. Like, we must give the people what they want. Kinks.
Yeah, and they'll probably never listen to us again after we tell them. So, yeah, that'd be wonderful. So, as this show comes to a close, where can people find you to speak with you and for them to tell you their kinks?
Majestic Nerd Lady on Instagram, and if you are a listener and you want to follow me, because you'll have to send a request because my Instagram for the time being is private, please send a message saying that you are a listener, because there's sometimes that people will try to follow me. I will do a quick brief look at their profile. It's like, I don't know if I trust this because it might be spam or something. So if you're a listener, please send me a message like, hey, I listened to Out of Context, or Slacking Majestically, or Beautiful Ashley, and I just want to follow you because I think you're pretty interesting and cool, and like Adrian. And I'm like, you know what? I agree with you. I'll accept your follow. Do that, please, because if you just simply try to follow me and you don't send me a message, there is a 50-50 chance of either I will decline or accept.
Yes, she's a very private young lady, so this is how this works. And of course, you can find me and everyone else on the Walker AC Experience, 22 free apps out there. Download, comment, like, get the algorithms up. If you want a good show to listen to for an hour, unplug your brain, laugh, cry, scar yourself. Yes, we're on anywhere from Pandora to iHeartRadio to Spotify. Just do a search for the Walker AC Experience. And of course, send us an email to slackingmajestically01 at yahoo.com. That's slackingmajestically01 Talk to us. Now, granted, if you want to tell us your kinks, that's fine. We'll keep it between us. We may point and laugh, but that's just who we are. So as we end off the show, and of course a cliffhanger, tune in next week. We'll tell you some stuff about us, which hopefully won't scare you away too much. What do you have for us, Ashley, as we sign off?
When does a joke become a dad joke?
When?
When it's fully grown.
See, I can't even say anything on that one. Good night, everyone.
Good night, people.